High Admiral Vexthor of the Meraxian Empire stood aboard the bridge of the Celestial Dominance, his 4 crystalline arms folded behind his back as he studied the holographic projection of Earth. His bioluminescent skin pulsed with shades of deep purple, a sign of intense concentration among his species. Supreme Strategist Ancilla, explain to me again why this backwater planet has remained unconquered for so long, he asked, his voice resonating with harmonic undertones typical of Meraxian speech. The willowy alien beside him adjusted her atmospheric processor before responding. Her silver skin reflected the starlight as she manipulated the holographic display with practiced precision. The data is puzzling, High Admiral. Previous expeditions have consistently failed to establish foothold operations. The most recent attempt by the Korthos Collective resulted in their complete withdrawal from this sector. Withdrawn the Korthos? Vexthor's skin flashed bright yellow in disbelief. They've conquered 17 systems in the past solar cycle alone. What could possibly? Sir, a junior sensor operator interrupted, their crystalline form vibrating with urgency. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface. Vexthor waved a dismissive arm. Probably they're primitive fission reactors, nothing our shields can't handle. No, sir, the operator's voice wavered. These signatures, they match no known energy patterns in our database, and they're growing. Supreme Strategist Ancilla's fingers danced across her console, bringing up detailed scans. Her usual composed demeanor cracked slightly as she analyzed the data. High Admiral, I believe we may have made a serious error in our assessment. These humans, they're not using standardized energy matrices. Every power source on their planet appears to be improvised. Improvised. Vexthor's skin shifted to a concerned green. What do you mean, improvised? They're using multiple different technologies simultaneously. Fission, fusion, solar, wind, biological, some we can't even classify. It's as if they never settled on a single energy standard. They just kept adding more. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. In all known spacefaring civilizations, technological progress followed clear, predictable patterns. Energy standardization was fundamental to advanced society. Yet here was a species that simply ignored such basic principles. Show me their orbital defenses, Vexthor commanded, trying to mask his growing unease. The holographic display shifted, revealing Earth's orbital space. Ancilla's analysis was swift but disturbing. They have thousands of satellites, sir. Most appear to be primitive communication devices, but she paused, double-checking her readings. Many are simply debris. They're using their own space trash as a defensive screen. That's insane, Vexthor muttered. No species would intentionally. Sir, we're being hailed, the communications officer announced. It's coming from everywhere. Multiple frequencies, multiple formats, some we can't even decode. Open a channel, Vexthor ordered, straightening his posture. This would be the Meraxian Empire's first official contact with humanity. He needed to project strength and superiority. The message that came through was not what anyone expected. It was a cacophony of different human voices, speaking different languages, all overlapping. But one phrase kept repeating, becoming clearer as their translation matrix adapted. Welcome to Earth. We've been expecting you. Would you like to schedule a tour of our nuclear facilities? Our children are particularly excited to show you their science fair projects. Vexthor's skin turned pale white, the Meraxian equivalent of breaking into a cold sweat. In his 1,000 cycles of military service, he had never encountered a species that treated first contact with a potential invasion force as a tourist opportunity. Supreme Strategist, he said quietly, prepare a diplomatic greeting. And begin analyzing their science fair projects. Something tells me we're not dealing with any ordinary pre-FTL civilization. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Celestial Dominance had been specially configured to intimidate visitors with its towering crystalline architecture and imposing scale. Yet somehow, The three human representatives looked annoyingly comfortable lounging in the hastily fabricated chairs. So let me get this straight, Dr. Sarah Martinez, Earth's lead diplomat, said while casually sipping what she had called coffee, a substance that Supreme Strategist Enxilla's scans indicated was mildly toxic. You've come to assess our civilization's readiness for galactic integration. Correct, Vexthor responded, his skin cycling through professional shades of blue. We must evaluate your species' technological and cultural development to determine appropriate intervention levels. The second human, Dr. James Chen, a quantum physicist according to their credentials, grinned inexplicably. Fascinating. While you're here, would you mind taking a look at our particle accelerator? The students at CERN have some really interesting theories about dimensional barriers they'd love to discuss. Enxilla's atmospheric processor hitched. Students, you let untrained juveniles access particle acceleration technology. Of course. The third human, Major Diana Rodriguez, chimed in. How else will they learn? Just last week, a high school in Nebraska almost achieved stable fusion in their gymnasium. Didn't quite work out, but the kids learned a lot about plasma containment. Vexthor's skin involuntarily flashed warning patterns of orange and red. You permit unauthorized fusion experiments in education facilities. Well, we have safety protocols, Dr. Martinez assured them, taking another sip of her poison. Nobody's accidentally created a black hole in at least 5 years. The Meraxian delegation exchanged horrified glances. Enxilla pulled up her data tablet, frantically updating her species assessment notes. Perhaps, Vexthor suggested carefully, we should discuss your military capabilities. Purely as a formality, of course. Major Rodriguez brightened. Oh, you should come to our international war games next month. We've got this new thing called paintball that we're introducing to the strategic exercises. Much safer than using live ammunition for practice. You simulate combat for recreation? Enxilla asked, her silver skin dulling in confusion. Among other things, Dr. Chen added helpfully. My nephew's scout troop is learning wilderness survival next week. You know, basic stuff like starting fires, building shelters, tracking predators, character-building activities. Vexthor's translator matrix must have malfunctioned. You deliberately expose your young to survival situations and predatory organisms. Oh, don't worry, Dr. Martinez laughed. They all get satellite phones, usually, and anti-venom is standard in first aid kits these days. The High Admiral's skin had settled into a persistent shade of nauseated green. This was not proceeding according to any first contact protocol he'd studied. These humans treated lethal dangers as learning opportunities and seemed to actively encourage their offspring to experiment with potentially civilization-ending technologies. One last question, Enxilla ventured, trying to salvage some useful intelligence from the meeting. Your planet's artificial satellite network, we noticed some unusual patterns in its distribution. Ah, you mean the Kessler Syndrome Prevention Project? Dr. Chen exclaimed. Yeah, we kind of went overboard with satellites in the early days, but we've turned it into an advantage. The debris field makes for excellent radar calibration practice. Plus, it's a great testing ground for our space cleanup robots. Robots? Vexthor asked weakly. Mostly autonomous, Major Rodriguez confirmed, though sometimes they develop interesting interpretations of their programming. Last month, one of them decided to start building its own satellite from collected debris. Pretty creative, really. We hired it as a consultant afterward. As the humans continued chatting about their apparently self-aware space debris collectors, Vexthor sent a private message to Enxilla. Update the invasion risk assessment. Priority level, ABSOLUT maximum. Note, under no circumstances should we allow them to discover our primary shipyards. They might try to improve them. The humans, meanwhile, had moved on to discussing something called extreme sports that seemed to involve deliberately jumping off perfectly stable platforms at high altitudes. Enxilla's data tablet had stopped accepting new entries, apparently having exceeded its capacity for documenting potentially lethal recreational activities. Just another normal diplomatic meeting with humanity, it seemed. The galaxy would never be the same. In the secure cultural analysis chamber of the celestial dominance, Supreme Strategist Banksilla stared at the holographic display with growing horror. Beside her, High Admiral Vexthor's skin had taken on a previously undocumented shade of distressed purple. "This is entertainment," he whispered, watching humans in what they called a disaster movie deliberately fly aircraft into massive storms. According to their media classification system, this falls under the category of light summer fun, Ensilla confirmed, her silver skin rippling with disbelief. The humans call it a popcorn flick. And they consume exploded grain while watching these scenarios. That's not even the most concerning part, cultural analyst Raxfer interjected, their crystalline form vibrating with anxiety. "Look at their video games." The display shifted to show humans enthusiastically engaging in simulated scenarios ranging from building interstellar civilizations to surviving apocalyptic wastans. What disturbed the Meraxians most wasn't the violence, it was the creativity. "They have thousands of different imagined scenarios for alien contact," Raxver explained, "and in each one, they've developed unique solutions for dealing with advanced technology. Some of these actually make theoretical sense." "You mean they're accidentally inventing viable defense strategies while playing games?" Vexthor's skin pulsed with alarm patterns. "Worse," Ensilla interrupted, pulling up another data set. "Look at the historical documentation." The display showed scenes from human history, ancient armies adapting enemy technologies, civilizations learning from each other's warfare techniques, cultures absorbing and modifying foreign innovations. "They've been doing this their entire history," she explained. "Every time they encounter a new technology or challenge, they don't just adapt to it, they reimagine it completely. Look at this primitive projectile weapon they called a bow. Within centuries of its invention, they had versions that could be fired from horseback, underwater, in massive volleys, from fortified positions. And they apply this same principle to everything," Raxvar added. "The current energy crisis, they're not trying to find one solution, they're pursuing all possible solutions simultaneously. Solar, wind, fusion, and dozens of experimental technologies we've never even considered." The display shifted again, showing human children in something called a science museum, eagerly manipulating interactive exhibits about physics, chemistry, and biology. "They make learning about fundamental forces into a game," Ensilla said, her voice filled with a mixture of admiration and fear. "Their young are encouraged to question everything, experiment with anything, and imagine impossible scenarios. Do you understand what this means?" Vexthor's skin had settled into a resigned grey. "They're not just dangerous because of their technology or their resilience. They're dangerous because they make everything into a learning opportunity, even failure." "Especially failure," Raxver corrected. "Look at this cultural phenomenon they call mythbusters. They literally make entertainment out of testing ways things can go wrong." A junior analyst burst into the chamber, their crystalline form practically shattering with excitement. "Supreme Strategist, you need to see this. We've discovered their internet." The room fell silent as the display filled with the vast, chaotic network of human digital information exchange. Social media discussions about theoretical physics alongside cat videos. Detailed engineering diagrams sharing space with cooking recipes. Endless debates about hypothetical scenarios, each more outlandish than the last. By the crystal core, Vexthor breathed. "They're all like this. Every single one of them is constantly theorizing, experimenting, imagining." "Sir," Ensilla said quietly, "I don't think we can risk any aggressive action against Earth. Not because they're too strong or too advanced, but because they'd probably enjoy it," Vexthor finished. "They'd see it as an opportunity to learn something new, to adapt, to grow stronger." The display showed a human child's drawing of a friendly alien sharing ice cream with a dinosaur. Send word to the Empire, Vexthor ordered. Recommend immediate reclassification of Earth as a Class X civilization, unpredictably creative, and start preparing diplomatic gift packages. If we can't conquer them, we better make friends with them, Engsilla agreed, before they decide to start improving the galaxy. The emergency session of the Meraxian High Command projected itself in shimmering holograms around High Admiral Vexthor's quarters. 12 of the Empire's most senior leaders, their crystalline forms glowing with various shades of concern, listened as he delivered his report. Honorable Council, Vexthor began, his skin carefully regulated to project calm professionalism. I must strongly advise against any military action toward Earth. Our latest intelligence suggests that human unpredictability exceeds all known tactical parameters. Supreme Commander Caxtil's hologram pulsed with skepticism. Surely you exaggerate, Admiral. Their technological level is barely Category 3. They haven't even colonized their own solar system. Engsilla stepped forward, her silver skin gleaming as she projected new data into the shared space. With respect, Supreme Commander, that's precisely what makes them dangerous. Observe their space program. The holographic display filled with images of various human spacecraft, some sleek and professional, others looking almost deliberately crude. They're using multiple competing space agencies, she explained. Private companies, government organizations, even amateur groups. Each develops different technologies, different approaches. Some of their most successful launches have come from organizations operating out of what they call garages. Preposterous, another council member scoffed. Space travel requires precise standardization, careful regulation. 2 human adolescents recently reached low orbit using parts from something called a junkyard, Vexthor interrupted. Their project won a regional science fair. They're currently being recruited by multiple space agencies. Stunned silence filled the quantum-linked chamber. There's more, Engsilla continued, bringing up new data. We've analyzed their military response protocols. They don't have a unified planetary defense system because every nation maintains independent forces that regularly train against each other. They practice war against themselves. High strategist Mexvor's hologram flickered with confusion. They call it war games, Vexthor explained. But these exercises often involve real weapons, real tactics. They constantly adapt and improve by competing against themselves, and that's not even considering their civilian population. The display shifted to show human emergency response training, civilian defense programs, and something particularly alarming called prepper communities. A significant percentage of their population actively prepares for catastrophic scenarios, Engsilla reported. Global warfare, environmental collapse, alien invasion. They treat these as practical possibilities requiring immediate preparation. But surely their lack of unity makes them vulnerable, another council member argued. If we struck key military installations. They have something called guerrilla warfare, Vexthor cut in, his skin flashing warning colors. Their history suggests that attacking them only makes them more creative. During their last global conflict, one group of humans developed functional underwater breathing apparatus using garden hoses and bicycle pumps. The council chamber erupted in untranslatable exclamations of disbelief. Furthermore, Engsilla added, pulling up more data, we've detected concerning patterns in their scientific research. They're simultaneously pursuing at least 15 different approaches to faster-than-light travel. Most are completely impractical, but they only need one to work, Vexthor finished. And they're not afraid to fail. Every failure just becomes data for their next attempt. High Commander Rixnar, who had been silent until now, spoke up. What do you propose, Admiral? We cannot simply ignore a potentially hostile species on our borders. Vexthor's skin shifted to diplomatic green. I propose we initiate immediate friendship protocols, not just diplomatic relations, full cultural exchange. Cultural exchange. Several council members exclaimed simultaneously. Consider the alternative, Engsilla suggested, If we don't actively engage with them, they'll eventually discover us anyway. And given their demonstrated tendency to reverse engineer everything they encounter, the implications hung in the quantum space like a dying star about to go supernova. Very well, Supreme Commander Caxtel declared after a long moment. Initiate friendship protocols. But Admiral Vexthor, strategist Angsilla, you will personally oversee this exchange. Make sure these humans don't improve anything without proper supervision. As the council holograms faded, Vexthor turned to Angsilla. Should we tell them about the human concept of open source technology? Let's save that for the second report, she replied, her silver skin rippling with what might have been amusement. Some revelations require careful preparation. Outside the celestial dominance's viewport, Earth continued its orbit, blissfully unaware that it had just been classified as the galaxy's most constructively chaotic civilization. The emergency alert blared through the celestial dominance's crystalline corridors as High Admiral Vexthor and Supreme Strategist Banksilla rushed to the command center. The Situation Room was already crowded with both Meraxian officers and human representatives when they arrived. Report, Vexthor commanded, his skin pulsing with urgent patterns. Dr. Martinez pointed to the main holographic display, where a massive anomaly was spreading across the Orion arm of the galaxy. We're calling it the Void Cascade. It's consuming stars, breaking down fundamental forces. Standard physics just stops working inside it. 3 advanced civilizations have already gone dark, Angsilla added, her silver skin dulled with concern. The Pyraxians, the Quantum Collective, even the ancient arbiters, all their defensive measures failed. Traditional defenses won't work against this, Major Rodriguez stated, studying the spreading darkness. We need to think outside the box. Dr. Chen was already scribbling equations on a portable holographic board, muttering about quantum entanglement and dimensional barriers. The void's expansion follows a geometric progression, but there's something familiar about the pattern. Familiar. Vexthor's skin flashed questioning patterns. Yeah, Chen grinned suddenly. It reminds me of this game my niece plays, Conway's Game of Life. The void spreads like a cellular automaton. The Meraxian officers stared blankly while Dr. Martinez's eyes lit up. James, are you suggesting we could treat this cosmic horror like a computer simulation? Why not? Chen shrugged. Everything follows rules, even reality-eating void anomalies. We just need to figure out its rule set, and, he paused, smile widening, introduce a virus. A virus. Ancilla's atmospheric processor skipped a cycle. You want to infect a cosmic anomaly with a computer virus. Not exactly, Major Rodriguez interrupted, catching on. But what if we could introduce a pattern that disrupts its expansion, like a firebreak, but for reality itself? The next few hours were unlike anything in Meraxian military history. Humans from various scientific disciplines were quantum-linked into the command center, bringing increasingly unorthodox suggestions. A teenager's science project on wave interference patterns was adapted into a stellar defense grid. A graduate student's thesis on quantum gaming theory became the foundation for predicting the void's movements. This is insane, Vexthor muttered to Angsilla as they watched humans coordinate with Meraxian engineers to modify the fleet's quantum drives. They're treating an existential threat to the galaxy like a puzzle game. That's exactly why it might work, Angsilla replied. Look at them. They're not afraid. They're excited. Indeed, the humans had transformed the command center into something resembling what they called a hackathon. Dr. Chen was explaining complex physics concepts using coffee cups and snack wrappers. Major Rodriguez had organized a simulation team that was running scenarios using modified video game engines. Dr. Martinez was coordinating with other Earth nations, describing the void threat in terms of the ultimate multiplayer cooperative challenge. We've got it, Chen suddenly shouted, his holographic equations spinning in triumph. The void's expansion follows fourth-dimensional cellular automata rules. If we generate a specific pattern of quantum interference, We can create a paradox in its own rule set, Rodriguez finished. Force it to crash like a badly coded program. The plan they presented was audacious, impossible, and thoroughly human. It involved converting several gas giants into massive quantum processors, using the solar system's natural resonance patterns as amplifiers, and essentially turning space itself into what they called a reality firewall. This is beyond unorthodox, Vexthor stated, his skin cycling through disbelief patterns. The energy requirements alone, already solved, Martinez smiled. We've got every nuclear power plant on Earth redirecting output. Plus, about 1 million volunteers are contributing computer processing power through something we're calling the Save Reality Screensaver program. As the combined human Meraxian fleet moved into position, Vexthor realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their resilience. It was their ability to take the impossible and make it seem not just possible, but inevitable. You know, Ensila commented as they watched the first quantum interference patterns begin to disrupt the void. If this works, it will completely change our understanding of cosmic defense. When this works, Dr. Chen corrected cheerfully. And just wait till you see what we've got planned for the victory celebration. Ever heard of a genre called cosmic horror comedy? Vexthor's skin cycled through several previously undocumented colors. The galaxy would never be the same, and maybe that was exactly what it needed. 6 standard galactic months after the Void Cascade incident, the Celestial Dominance hosted the first Galactic Cultural Exchange Summit. High Admiral Vexthor watched with a mixture of pride and trepidation as humans mingled with representatives from 24 advanced civilizations. Did you see the latest modifications to the quantum communications network? Ensila asked, her silver skin gleaming with barely contained amusement. The humans introduced something they call emojis. Indeed, Vexthor replied, his skin shifting through patterns of resigned acceptance. The Hive Mind Collective is particularly fond of something called memes. They claim it's revolutionized their group consciousness dynamics. Across the Grand Chamber, Dr. Martinez was enthusiastically explaining the concept of open-source development to a group of mechanical synthesis beings. Their optical sensors whirred in what might have been excitement as she described how sharing technology freely could lead to unexpected innovations. And you're saying anyone can modify the base code? One of the mechanical beings asked, its voice modulated with disbelief. That's the beauty of it. Dr. Chen chimed in, pulling up a holographic display of Earth's software repositories. Look at this operating system. It started as a student project, and now it runs half the quantum computers in the galaxy. In another corner, Major Rodriguez was conducting what she called a space safety workshop with representatives from various military forces. The sight of a crystalline hive-ship commander attempting to perform a trust fall exercise with a plasma entity would have been unthinkable mere months ago. The most remarkable thing, Ensila observed, is how they've affected the younger generations across all species. She gestured toward a group of adolescent aliens gathered around a human teenager who was demonstrating something called skateboarding in the zero-gravity section of the ship. The fact that they were using modified anti-gravity plates as makeshift skateboards would have given any safety inspector multiple cardiac events. Last week, Vexthor shared, his skin flickering with what might have been humor. A young Meraxian submitted a proposal to create a galactic science fair. The Council is still trying to process the implications. Speaking of processing, Ensila added, have you seen the latest statistics? Since implementing human-inspired educational methods, innovation rates across all member species have increased by 300%. The quantum archives can barely keep up with the patent submissions. The Chamber's attention suddenly focused on a commotion near the center. Dr. Martinez was unveiling Earth's latest contribution to galactic society, a program they called Galaxy's Got Talent. It's simple, she explained to the bewildered audience. Every civilization gets to showcase their unique abilities and innovations. The audience votes on their favorites, and the winners get funding to develop their ideas further. But that's not how research and development works, protested a traditional sciences representative, their phosphorescent tentacles writhing in confusion. It is now. Chen grinned. We've already got 1,000 entries, including a group of teenage crystallines who figured out how to use their natural resonance patterns for music production. Vexthor turned to Xilla, his skin displaying complex patterns of contemplation. Did we do the right thing, introducing such chaos into the galactic order? They watched as a plasma entity attempted to perform what humans called a fist bump with a mechanical synthesis being, resulting in a minor power surge and delighted laughter from both parties. Look at them, Xilla responded. For millennia, we all developed along rigid, predictable paths. We achieved great things, yes, but we stopped surprising ourselves. The humans reminded us that progress doesn't have to follow a straight line. And now, Vexthor asked, noting that someone had introduced the concept of karaoke to the hive mind collective, with interesting harmonic results. Now we have a galaxy where a child's science project might solve an ancient engineering problem, where different species don't just cooperate, they collaborate creatively. Where failure is seen as a step toward success rather than a dead end. Her silver skin rippled with optimism. The humans didn't just save us from the void, they saved us from stagnation. As if to emphasize her point, an announcement echoed through the chamber. Attention all beings. The first intergalactic X Games will begin in 10 minutes. Please note that participation is at your own risk, and temporal paradox insurance is recommended. Vexthor's skin cycled through amused resignation. Well, at least the galaxy will never be boring again. That's the point, Xilla smiled in her own alien way. As the humans say, the universe is not just stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine, but they're helping us imagine bigger, better, and weirder things every day. Together, they watched as the future of galactic society unfolded before them, chaotic, creative, and gloriously unpredictable, just the way humanity liked it.